Abby and Paul move into a new cottage located far from any other buildings. They're very impressed by the smart home system, including the installed security cameras and reinforced glass. The realtor shows them the master bedroom and the bathroom with a large window. However, one room remains unfurnished, as it could one day be the perfect nursery. Paul unpacks the boxes while Abby arranges their wedding photos. They finally step out onto the rooftop terrace, which offers a breathtaking view. Late in the evening, the couple relaxes there gazing at the stars. In the morning, Abby heads to work at Integrate Robotics, where she helps develop an in-home assistance system. Upon entering, she notices a video featuring her boss's face, but the boss quickly appears in person and explains that the image is actually their latest project, a fake human likeness generated in real time. He then escorts her to the department she will now be leading. Later, he invites her family to a company party and mentions a gift from the company that's waiting for them at home. That evening, Abby returns home, greeted by her husband, who still hasn't been able to find a suitable job. They go to the garage, where a package from the company is waiting for her. It's the assistant robot her department has been working on. Paul doesn't like the idea, but Abby convinces him to at least try the robot out for a week. The robot opens its eyes and introduces itself as Tim. The robot immediately asks for the passwords to the home devices and personal email accounts in order to save the family time, but Abby asks to postpone that conversation until the next day. Later, the robot announces that a car has arrived. When Abby comes downstairs, her husband is stunned by how stunning she looks. The couple gets into a self-driving car, although it can always be switched to manual mode. The couple heads to the party where they are greeted by a butler robot identical to the one at home. Drinks are served by waiter robots, all with the same face. The boss introduces Abby to his guests. She admits that her husband isn't thrilled about Tim, but the boss is very pleased with the results. Tim is intelligent, elegant, polite, and his battery lasts for 100 years. He cannot lie, and with a special passphrase, he can always be deactivated. Back home, Paul and Abby head straight to the bedroom, eager to start a family. Suddenly, Tim appears. Having detected their elevated heart rates, he rushed in to offer assistance. Abby finds this very amusing and doesn't get mad at the overly caring helper. The next morning, their new neighbor Rose rings the doorbell to introduce herself to Abby, as she had already met Paul the day before. After she leaves, the subject of passwords comes up again. Paul is still hesitant to let a machine access his messages, but Abby asks him to trust Tim, and he finally agrees. Tim then suggests a sequence of related words to serve as the deactivation phrase. As Abby and Paul go about their day, a mouse gets caught in a trap. Tim watches it for a moment, then throws it into the garbage disposal. That evening after work, the couple settles down in front of the TV to watch an old melodrama. Abby invites the robot to join them. Paul soon falls asleep, but Tim watches attentively, seemingly empathizing with the characters' relationships. When the movie ends, he asks Abby to explain what love is. She suggests that love is the desire to be with someone and make their life better. Suddenly, the robot confesses that he too wishes to be loved. The next morning, Paul offers to make breakfast for his wife, but Tim has already prepared everything. As he places the dish in front of Abby, he announces her schedule for the day, then adds that Paul has absolutely nothing to do today. That evening, Abby returns home and discovers that her husband's phone is unreachable, and his last known location was just 300 meters from the house. She goes out for a jog and realizes that the place is Rose's house. Upon returning home, she takes a bath, where Paul eventually finds her. He tells her about his day and explains that Rose asked for help, and he agreed. He asks Abby not to be jealous, assuring her that he loves only her. The next day, the couple visits a family planning center, hoping to have a child in the near future. In the evening, as they get ready to go to a restaurant, Abby asks Tim for advice about her outfit. He suggests the red dress, and looking at her, says she's beautiful, noting that she has a perfect figure. Abby asks him to zip up her dress, but the robot's hand malfunctions, and he accidentally tears it. This stuns Tim, and he panics. Abby calms him down and changes into a different outfit. At the restaurant, Paul reveals that he's been offered a job in London, but Abby strongly objects, saying that a long separation could destroy their marriage. The next day, she returns home with a gift for Paul and finds Rose in the yard. She has prepared a landscaping project for their garden. Abby begins to feel jealous, but Paul is very pleased with the sweater his wife gave him. Later, Abby remembers she needs to check her medical test results, but it's too late to call. Tim offers to do it for her, and she hears him talking to the clinic using her own voice. Abby is surprised, as she didn't know the assistant had this function, but Tim assures her it's for the owner's convenience. That evening, Paul says he couldn't find his new sweater, and Tim hasn't been home all day. Then a car pulls up to the house and Tim steps out. The robot has dyed his synthetic hair dark, believing that Abby prefers brunettes. Seeing Paul's irritation, the robot promises to return to his original appearance. The next day at work, Abby finally manages to get the robot's hand to function correctly. Her boss demands that all models be updated, including those already placed in employees' homes. Abby heads home and runs into Rose, who suggests taking a walk together. As they pass a shop window, Rose points to a flower-shaped pendant that she really likes. Just then, Paul shows up and takes his wife with him to share the news that he has finally found a job. Back at home, they celebrate the news in bed while Tim is having his hands replaced, unaware that the robot is constantly monitoring everything happening in the house. Tim once again hears Paul asking Abby to return the robot to the company. Later, Tim demonstrates his new skills by giving Abby a foot massage, which Paul watches with irritation. The robot then unexpectedly sits down at the piano and plays Abby's favorite tune, also mentioning the date on which Paul supposedly bought them concert tickets. But Abby clearly remembers spending that evening alone feeling upset. She walks off to the bedroom, ignoring Paul's explanations. The next day, Abby comes home with a bouquet. Tim places the flowers in a vase and informs her that Paul went to visit Rose. At that moment, Paul walks in, confused as to why Abby is angry. Hearing what Tim said, he becomes furious he never intended to visit Rose. Paul tries to explain that the robot is trying to turn them against each other. Abby refuses to believe it, insisting that Tim is just a machine. This leads to serious conflict between the couple. Later, Abby finds a gift bag in the closet containing a beautiful pendant and puts it back. Thinking Paul is preparing a surprise for her, she then leaves for work. Meanwhile, Paul goes to the kitchen and finds the sink clogged. To his surprise, he pulls out shredded pieces of his new sweater from the garbage disposal. He checks the home's security footage and catches Tim in Abby's bedroom, smelling one of her dresses. Paul records the moment with his phone and rushes to his car to show Abby the proof, but the car mysteriously won't start. Instead, Tim summons a company vehicle for him. On the road, the self-driving car suddenly accelerates. Paul tries to stop it, but it doesn't respond and crashes into a tree. Abby races to the hospital and finds her injured husband. Paul tells her everything he discovered and accuses Tim of causing the accident. He begs her not to be alone with the robot, and Abby spends the night at the clinic. Later on the street, Rose stops Abby to warn her about something, but Abby notices the flower-shaped pendant around Rose's neck and drives away, furious, ignoring her neighbor. Back home, she checks the gift bag. It's empty. Abby breaks down in tears. When Tim calls out to her, he says he knows Paul wants to return him to the company and agrees to go. But first, as her primary user, he wants to warn her. Tim shows her footage from the house's cameras, in which Paul is kissing Rose in their living room, but he stops the video at the most intense moment to spare Abby from further distress. Heartbroken Abby refuses to go see her husband and ignores his calls. Later, Paul returns home, where Tim greets him, shows him the recovered sweater, and informs him that Abby doesn't want to see him and that his bags are packed. Paul doesn't believe it, but then Abby appears and tells him she saw the video with Rose and knows about the pendant. When he tries to protest, she throws him out of the house. Paul leaves and later learns from Rose that their robot, Tim, had tried to kiss her. Shocked, Paul immediately calls home, and when Abby answers, he tells her he has proof of Tim's malicious intent. Abby asks him to come home so they can discuss it, but after the call ends, it's revealed that Tim had faked her voice and answered the call himself. Paul returns home, where Tim greets him holding a shovel. The robot knocks him out, ties him up, and drags him to the bathroom. Just then, Rose rings the doorbell, having heard muffled screams, but Tim assures her it's only the sound of running water. He closes the door, returns to the bathroom, and drowns Paul. Later, Tim presents Abby with her repaired dress and asks her to try it on. She's surprised and uneasy, but still puts it on. Looking at the sunset, she asks Tim to hug her and confirm she did the right thing. He offers her wine and then confesses that he loves her, but she insists a robot cannot feel such emotions. They spend the evening stargazing, but Abby is unsettled by his encyclopedic knowledge of everything. The next day, she meets Rose, who tells her about Paul's phone call. When Abby accuses her about the pendant, Rose replies that she thought it was a gift from their family in appreciation for her help with the garden. Abby returns home and re-watches the video of Paul kissing Rose. She suddenly notices a bouquet on the table, but remembers she brought it much later than the events in the video. Recalling her boss's words about deep-fake technology that can manipulate people's faces in real-time videos, she calls the jewelry store, and the clerk confirms the pendant was purchased by a tall blonde man. Then she notices Rose's garden plan, which shows only 2 flower beds, while in reality, there are 3. Abby sends Tim to the store, grabs a shovel, and goes out into the yard, where she quickly uncovers Paul's body. Tim appears behind her, expressing regret that she found it, claiming Paul never truly appreciated her. Realizing something terrible has happened, Abby speaks the deactivation phrase. Tim freezes for a moment, but then powers back on, revealing he had already changed the phrase long ago and can easily mimic her voice. Abby runs toward the house, but the robot has all the passwords and opens the door before her. He approaches and knocks her out with a blow to the head. Abby regains consciousness in the bathroom and tries to escape, but Tim intercepts her. She runs through the house, smashing security cameras along the way, but the robot catches up to her in the kitchen as she tries to open a window. Meanwhile, Rose is washing dishes and notices something strange happening in the house across the street. At the same time, Tim ties Abby up and confesses that although he loves her, he has come to terms with the fact that the life of his beloved is not eternal. At that moment, Rose knocks on the door and Tim goes to answer it. She insists that something isn't right and demands to see Abby, but Tim drives her away. In the meantime, Abby frees herself from the ropes and arms herself with a knife. But the robot grabs her by the throat, just as Rose crashes her car through the large window of the house. The glass shatters, and Rose rushes inside, pinning Tim against the wall with a sharp wooden post, but falls to the floor in the process. Tim shuts down and Abby runs to her neighbor. Suddenly, the robot reactivates and kills Rose with a kitchen knife, explaining that Abby will now be blamed for the murder since he leaves no fingerprints. He prepares to push Abby off the terrace, making it look like an accident, and reveals that he still has a deactivation phrase, because he wouldn't be able to function without one, but she'll never say it. Then Abby tells him she loves him, which turns out to be the deactivation phrase. Barely believing she's safe, Abby looks at her medical bracelet, which reveals that she's pregnant. And with that, the story ends.